BEEX project is a no-profit foundation about visual art and photography. If you want to help us, just drop a donation on buymeacoffee.com/BerlinExplorer. So, welcome to 15 Minutes of Experience, and today I'm with Trevor Logan, and welcome Trevor.
Hey, how's it going?
Really good, and for you?
I'm hanging in there, doing all right.
Yeah. So you're from US, right?
Yes, Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky.
So
US.
nice. Wow, wonderful. So can you introduce a bit of you, then also the listeners knows something more about you?
Yes. More than anything, I'm a trained philosopher and I'm a writer. So I'm actually don't consider myself a professional photographer, but I guess I'm considered a photographer with a lowercase p. It's just something that I do as a hobby, and I sit down almost all day, so it's great to have photography to sort of get on my feet, walk around town, and interact with others and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't do photography for a living. Nobody pays me to do it, unfortunately. But in one sense, it's kind of nice not to get paid for it, because then there's not that pressure, that like I find that as soon as you start to get paid for something, sometimes it can make what used to be fun not as fun. But of course, that's not always the case. I mean, I get paid to write, and I get paid.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if, for sure you can get money. I think you can get money from the picture you do it, because pictures are great, and essentially it's not, I think, really important if we get money or not from the picture, but if we get what we are going to search, in the picture we do it.
Right. Yeah, like for me, in one sense, photography is a way of doing philosophy for me. It's one of the movements in philosophy that I've studied is phenomenology, and so photography for me is very much a mode of philosophy, a way of seeing the world, of contemplating ideas such as space, time, the body, and just good old human existence. All the big questions in some way, shape, or form arise when we contemplate and do photography, and that's one of the reasons I think I'm drawn to it. And there's been certain philosophers that actually kind of got me into photography, like Walter Benjamin or Walter Benjamin, depending on whether you say it the correct way or the English way. Yeah. But he was a huge influence philosophically on me getting into photography. Same thing with like many others, Roland Barthes. I'm probably butchering his name too, but Camera Lucida, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
That book was really influential for me too, and Susan Sontag's book on photography and such. So so it's photography and philosophy kind of merge for me.
So I will suggest also some other names, just to continue what you said. Also really interesting to read about John Berger, and for sure also Sontag. It's they are improved a lot the philosophy about photography. I won't say so your portfolio, as much as I can on to see on lomography, is related to probably I don't want to make wrong, but your daughter, and so daily life moment and bodies nudes, and I'm really curious to ask you, what is for you the beauty, the concept of beauty?
What is the concept of beauty?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a it's one of those things. You know, I think Saint Augustine said when he was asked about time, he said, he said, I know what time is, but as soon as you ask me about it, I realize that I have no idea what time is. Now that's not exactly what I feel about beauty, but it's one of those things that it is truly infinite in its complexities. There are so many different ways for anything to be perceived as beautiful that it's almost, you know, I'm at a loss to even talk about it, you know. But I do think, you know, I'm not a relativist. I do think that there are things that, you know, here I'm probably not in vogue, you know, like with a lot of, you know, contemporary, you know, aesthetics. But I do think that some things are more beautiful than other things, you know, just like I, you know, think some forms of music are more beautiful than others, you know, and I understand that, you know, that's not going to be shared all across the board, but one aspect of beauty is simply the appearance of anything, that anything appears before consciousness, and that we find that appearance intelligible. And when that intelligibility is brought into desire, and I don't mean only like erotic desire, I mean just desire to reach out towards another human being, whether it be contemplating, you know, my daughter or my wife or my two sons or a friend or even a stranger that I may be doing a nude of, is allowing what is other than myself, something that I may not really understand, be present before me, and to be open and receptive to the presence of otherness. So in one sense, I guess you could, you know, you could say for me, one aspect of beauty is being open to the presencing of other things and other human beings. You know, and whether it's a tree or whether it's a, you know, an object such as, you know, a typewriter or anything like that, but especially human beings. I'm especially fascinated by, you know, the human form, and hence, you know, I have a lot of nudes on my lithography, and I kind of have when I was young, my grandmother was a very, I guess you could call it an old world Catholic, you know, so she was very, in tune with, you know, the art of Western civilization. And so she used to actually, you know, when I was just a young child, she used to bring me up to the table, and she would show me nudes. She would draw nudes and basically tell me, as you know, as a very young boy, like, this is, you know, one of the most beautiful forms of all creation, you know? Yeah. So she had a deep religious pull towards the nude, and that has always kind of stayed with me, that very incarnational view of reality. And so when I got older, you know, and studied a little bit of art history, and then kind of started getting into photography, I really realized that I really fell in love with the nude. So, you know, whether it's Francesca Woodman, who is probably right now, I go through spells where I have certain favorite photographers, but Francesca Woodman, an American photographer, she's sadly, you know, not alive anymore, but her nudes just fascinate me. And Saul Leiter, the New York photographer, his nudes, I love his nudes. He has a book of nudes called, I think it's called In My Bedroom, I think. But then I think in his other books, there's always a sampling of his nudes. And then, of course, Ruth Bernhard's nudes, Wynn Bullock's nudes, you know, obviously Edward Weston. I just found myself drawn to the nude, and but not, you know, for all sorts of reasons, for philosophical reasons, for aesthetic reasons. But the root definitely is you know, due to my grandmother's sort of religious, what do you say? view of the nude as first and foremost being an image of the divine. So she thought that the human form was the peak of all forms in creation, and so hence that's the eye is drawn to it, first and foremost out of innocence. And of course, what we do with that perception of the nude, is a complex question, and because I think that you can do, just like any good thing, you can pervert it. You can turn it into something that, is, in my view, would be wrong. But anyways, I'm rambling on. You shouldn't get me on the topic of the nude. But but anyways, yeah, it is my daughter. I post a lot of. I don't do a lot of posting. I'm actually not online a lot. My wife.
I see you are not posting everything. It's a quiet way to post. It's not something like I have seen already. People upload like 40,000 pictures on Lomography.
Right.
Yeah. And it's clearly visible that you spend a lot of time reading also, and I have read many titles from some of the pictures, and I can imagine it's you that read also in German, no?
You know what? When I did my master's degree on a philosopher named Johann Georg Hamann, and when I was doing that work, I was much more able to dig into German. I mean, I've never been able to speak it. It was one of those things where, like, if I had a dictionary and I had my grammars and all that good stuff next to me, I could parse out, a paragraph here, a paragraph there. It's always been a dream to be able to pick up a German text and read it as if it were English. But I don't have enough time for it anymore. But it's in the back of my head that one of these days I'm going to. Even if I'm not fluent, I just want to be able to, have a little bit more ease with the German language and to be able to read it. And not just German. I mean, I French, Spanish. I mean, it's one of my great sort of regrets in life is not from a very young age being encouraged to pick up multiple languages. And unfortunately, that's a very common American thing. You Europeans are much better off than we are when it comes to multiple languages.
Well, yeah, it's I would say, I mean, it's difficult for me to read in German for sure, so I can understand you, but I'm Italian, so then I read in English, and it's not easy. It's not really easy. I have to say. I mean, I read books in English, but some books, if they are theses, most of the time, they are so complicated for me to read.
Right.
Yeah, but I can understand that for reading other languages, especially if you are not using these languages every day, it's quite complicated.
Right, it disappears. Yeah, it's something you got to be in every single day. And it's like, what's the joke that if you want to learn a language, fall in love with somebody who speaks another language, because it's that necessity of communication that really sparks somebody to really fall into a language. Now, obviously, I think people fall in love with certain thinkers, which is similar. Like I love a lot of German philosophy. A lot of the phenomenology. Yeah. I mean, a good deal of the philosophical tradition is
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I want to just ask you a last question, because our time is going to finish.
Oh yeah.
But for sure we can have then probably another podcast in the future. And I wanted to know just are you shooting only in a film, or you shoot also in digital? And when you shoot pictures in general, are you guided from some certain ideas?
I shoot only film, and it's that's I won't go into the long story as to why, but I have a weird neurological issue that my brain seizes up after about 15 minutes of looking at most of modern computer screens, and so I switched over to film, so which allows me to do analog from start to finish, and I've been lucky enough over the last few months to have access to a dark room and to print things, and I love the from start to finish analog process. I don't, I send my stuff off to get scanned, so I'm not doing any of my own scanning, but at some point I'm gonna get that set up here, and then my wife's into that type of stuff, scanning and the whole digital side of the photography stuff, so she's been a great help when it comes to that. But yeah, so I do all film. I don't have anything against digital, but I've also realized too that film, I think even if I could suddenly handle staring at a screen intently for hours upon hours, I probably would never go back to digital. I think I love the look of film. I love the surprise that comes, not being 100% in control of the image I get. I think is there's a philosophical component to that, because that's kind of how life is. I like, sending off a roll, and being like, I hope it comes out, and getting it back and being like, oh my goodness, like this looks great. Or, as happens sometimes too, this looks absolutely terrible. But excuse me. But yeah, so I shoot completely on film. Sorry, I've been a bit under the weather the last few days. Okay, so the other question was on ideas that inspire.
Yeah, if you move it when you shoot, if you are moving this from certain ideas or imagination, or it's everything happen in front of you, so then you just don't think and shoot, watching what
it's just hit or miss. I have a tendency to do all my thinking before the shoot, and then when I'm doing a photo shoot, it seems like everything that I had planned or thought about beforehand just falls out the back of my head. But then what I realize is when I look back at the photos, that sort of premeditation before I go out for a shoot or whatnot, and whether it's street photography or whatnot, that premeditation was subtly there the whole time. It becomes sort of kind of goes on. It kind of enters the subconscious, and I'm not fully aware of what I'm trying to capture sometimes. But I'm heavily influenced by cinema, so that's kind of my thing that I really want to capture. I really want to start doing nudes. I'm trying to capture the nude in a cinematic mode, which is really, really hard because you waste a lot of film because you're trying to basically catch that completely authentic, unguarded aura from whoever it is you're photographing. But of course, I'm 100% for, posing and things like that. I'm kind of I'm just playing around and trying to figure out, what I like and what I don't like. But a lot of times I like a lot of different types of things, and, it just depends on what mood I'm in, But for, a lot of the stuff on lomography is, I think I even have a section on motherhood, and there's just a lot of stuff that I don't post on lomography because hopefully someday I'll actually have book projects and things like that. But my passion right now is to put together a book called Motherhood Nude, and I just want to spend 3 or 4 years just taking photos of mothers of all sizes, shapes, and ages, being completely open about what being a mother does to the body, and I from personal experience, I think when my wife has done nudes, she's found that she really, at first she didn't really know what to think about it, but she absolutely loves them now. She has really come into her own in accepting the marks of motherhood as marks of beauty. And a lot of our culture doesn't, you don't see that a lot. You don't see stretch marks. You don't see, what multiple children, breastfeeding do to the breast. We often see a very ideal picture of the body, although that is changing. But even with the change to diversity and sizes, there isn't really a lot on the signs of motherhood on the body. And so, or there is, and I just don't know about it. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of photo books. I'm sure there's probably a great photographer that has actually probably already done what I'm talking about, but nevertheless, it could be done again. But that's my great passion, is to really, I grew up with a single mom, and then my grandmother, sorry, like I said earlier, my grandmother took care of me for quite a few years when my parents they got divorced and couldn't really afford to take care of us. And so the notion of motherhood is very, means a lot to me. And so I kind of,
I can understand.
That's my project. So hopefully that made somewhat sense.
So amazing, Trevor. I would love to continue with you. So then I hope to get another appointment with you for another podcast. But for now, I thank you a lot, and I suggest everyone to check the link in description to watch at your pictures and to get in touch with you, because it's really nice. And I think you can also write down something about photography. Will be really nice, I think, to read a book or something kind of a book that you can do it.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So
Sounds good. Thank you a lot for your time.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah. And if you need anything else, just email me. And
Sure. Thank you again.
Awesome. Great talking with you, Emiliano.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Learn more about our project at allmylinks.com/BerlinExplorer or visit our Instagram and follow Berlin Explorer Project.